What just happened in Greenland was not merely a protest, it was a direct message to Donald Trump and to the entire world. Greenland's population is only about 55 to 60,000 people. And just now, almost every single one of them came out onto the streets. The reason is clear: threats from the American president about occupying and taking control of Greenland. While people were protesting in Nuuk at the very same time, Trump made an announcement.
Countries that do not support the United States acquisition. Now, starting February 1st, he says there will be a 10% tariff on a number of European countries.
Tariffs would be imposed on Denmark, France, Germany, Norway, Sweden, and the United Kingdom if they refuse to let Greenland be purchased. This was not a statement. This was direct pressure. Trump says that world peace is in danger and in the very same breath uses the language of war. NATO has made its position clear. Any attack on Greenland would trigger Article 5, and that would mean America versus NATO. The question is not who Greenland belongs to. The real question is, can any country use threats, tariffs, and military force to erase another nation's sovereignty? In this video, we will understand the entire issue with facts, calmly, without noise. What appeared in the streets of Greenland just moments ago has drawn the attention of the entire world. This was not an ordinary protest. It was not a political rally. It was not an event called by any party or organization. It was the collective reaction of an entire country, Greenland, with a total population of barely 55 to 60,000, so nearly every citizen out on the streets. The crowd in Nuuk was not just angry. They were anxious, they were afraid, and above all, they were resolute. People held placards in their hands. The slogans were clear. The message was direct. We are not for sale. This slogan was not meant only for Greenland's government. It was a message sent straight to Washington. While people were gathered in Nuuk at that very moment, Donald Trump was active on social media. His words were not calm. His language was not diplomatic. This was not how one speaks to an allied nation. It was the language of pressure. The language of threats. Trump stated openly that if Denmark and European countries were not prepared to hand over Greenland, tariffs would be imposed. First 10%, then 20 to 25%. Dates were announced, conditions were written, and finally it was said clearly this would continue until the complete and total purchase of Greenland was achieved. This was not just economic policy. This was geopolitical coercion. Greenland is not empty land. It is not an uninhabited island. People live there. There is a culture. There is an identity. And most importantly, there is political will. Greenland exists in an autonomous arrangement with Denmark. Foreign policy and defense are linked for Denmark, but internal governance belongs to Greenland, its own government, its own premier, its own public voice. And that voice has made one thing unmistakably clear. They do not want to be part of any deal. When Trump claimed that America has subsidized Denmark and Europe for centuries, Europe responded with shock and anger. America's own history spans just over 2 centuries. The word centuries was not used for accuracy. It was used for exaggeration. The reality is this. After World War II, relations between the US and Europe were built on partnership, not charity. NATO is part of that partnership, and NATO's Article 5, which Trump has often mocked, states clearly that an attack on one member is an attack on all. An attack on Greenland would be considered a direct attack on NATO. That is why the moment Trump's statements emerged, Denmark was not alone. Canada, France, Germany, Sweden, and Norway all expressed security support. Special forces presence.
Nuuk. France says it is also sending troops and has them on the ground there. The Netherlands will also join NATO allies. That includes Sweden, Germany, Finland, and Norway.
Military coordination, clear political statements, everything pointed in one direction. Canada's Prime Minister stated without ambiguity that Greenland's future would be decided by Greenland and Denmark. NATO obligations fully apply, and if Article 5 is activated, Canada would not step back. This was not an ordinary statement. It was a direct warning to Washington. Meanwhile, Trump's rhetoric became increasingly personal. He mocked Greenland's security arrangements. Comments like 2 dog sleds were not merely insensitive, They were insulting. For the people of Greenland, this was a clear signal that they were not being seen as a society, but as an obstacle. When the language of a president sinks to this level, the issue is no longer just policy. It becomes intent. Greenland's people know their island has natural resources, rare earth minerals, strategic importance. They are not afraid of dialogue. They are not against cooperation. But they reject occupation. They reject threats. They reject turning sovereignty into a bargaining chip. That is why the protests did not remain limited to Nuuk. People also took to the streets in Copenhagen. Outside Denmark City Hall, the same message echoed. Greenland is not alone. At the same time, conditions inside the United States are far from calm. Immigration enforcement actions in Minneapolis and St. Paul, tear gas against protesters, and talk of deploying the military. All of this is happening on the same timeline. A pattern emerges, a pattern of suppressing dissent, a pattern of ruling through intimidation. For ordinary Americans, the question runs even deeper. Healthcare is expensive. Buying a home is difficult. Education has become debt. And amid all this, the government's focus is Greenland. Tariffs. Military threats. That is why Trump is being mocked on social media. People are comparing, showing trophies, using satire. But this laughter is not light. It is uneasy laughter. One Greenlandic woman at the protest summed up the entire issue in the clearest words, "We need security, but more than that, we need respect. We are not a piece of land. We are people." And that is the core of this crisis. This is not just Greenland's story. It is the story of a world where power and rules are colliding. And this is where the warning truly begins. Because when people speak calmly, clearly, and without fear, they expose every language built on force, threats, and pressure. The question now stands before the world. Will the modern world still be governed by rules, or will power become the final language?
Well, I may put a tariff on countries if they don't go along with Greenland, because we need Greenland for national security.
Greenland has given its answer. Quietly, clearly, without fear. Now it is the world's turn. Because if this voice is ignored today, tomorrow it will be another island, another country, another people. Asking the same question, will our price be set too? This story does not end here. It stops at a warning. History reminds us again and again, decisions won by force do not last long, and nations, alliances, and leaders who forget this truth are eventually reminded by the people themselves. Guard. If you want to understand such stories without noise or agenda, like the video, Gatch. Subscribe to the channel, because the coming time is not just for watching, it is for understanding.